This is a presentation on participatory vendor selection. There are several steps to the consensus model in vendor selection. The objective of this model is to facilitate communication, improve documentation, and create a consensus. The first step of the model is to invite stakeholders to participate. Stakeholders include many decision makers such as clinicians, people with budget authority, and chief officers of health organizations. Next, conduct one-on-one interviews. Individual interviews generally take place before the group meeting to introduce the process and the associated scoring system. This can be done in person or over the phone. Thirdly, hold a group meeting. Introduce the task and also ask participants to introduce themselves. Construct a model for scoring, such as columns and graphs. Make sure to review all attributes and attribute levels. The fourth step is to gather results from scores. It is important to question what was the most and least important of the group's data, and also what were the major differences. After this discussion, the group should form a consensus. Next, discuss similar patterns and major differences. Measure vendor performances. These include expert and committee ratings. Lastly, make sure to document the process and the result. Include who participated, meeting process, group's consensus of attribute levels, conclusions, and the next steps from that point. In the first interview, our decision maker identified 4 key attributes: privacy, security, cost of implementation, ease of use, and reputation. These were defined by specific levels. For privacy and security, individual passwords were deemed best and open access was seen as the worst case scenario. Costs were quantified in dollars and required to implement the system. Ease of use was measured on the basis of how long it would take a nurse or physician assistant to enter information into the electronic health record, with 3 minutes being the best case. Reputation was the final attribute identified by the first decision maker and was to be measured based upon testimonials from other users of the program. 8 out of 10 positive reviews qualified as excellent, 6 out of 10 as good, and 4 or less as poor. As we can see from the chart, vendor A would be the best choice for our first decision maker. This answer is calculated after we assign weights to each individual attribute, which contributes to the weighted total. As is evident, vendor A outperforms vendor D in the categories that our decision maker has deemed most important, which are privacy and ease of use. In the second interview, our decision maker identified 4 key attributes, with a few differences from decision maker number 1. The 4 attributes identified were compatibility with existing systems, proximity for assistance, ease of use, and cost of implementation. Compatibility was to be measured as a percentage of current systems that the program could be integrated with, and proximity for assistance was measured as the distance between the closest customer service representative and the hospital. The other 2 attributes were assigned the same levels as in the prior example. As we can see from the chart, in contrast to our first decision maker, vendor B would be the choice to decision maker number 2. Again, this answer was calculated based on the weights assigned to each attribute given by the decision maker. These weights were obtained by ranking the relative importance of each attribute. As is clear by the weighted total, vendor B outperforms vendor A in relation to the decision maker number 2 specific attributes, which greatly emphasizes ease of use and costs. The current chart is the final model. The attributes and their weights represent the consensus reached by the 2 decision makers after a facilitated group discussion. As we can see, our first decision maker must have convinced the other decision maker about the importance of privacy and security because it is included in the consensus model but was not included on decision maker number 2's original model. In addition, the opposite must have happened with the compatibility with existing systems, as it appears on number 2's original model but not on the first decision maker's model. Once agreement was reached on the attributes, the decision makers once again ranked the relative importance of each attribute, which gave rise to weights for specific attributes. As we can see, together the decision makers decided that ease of use was the most important attribute, followed by privacy and costs, which were equal, and compatibility as the least important attribute. Using the weights, we were able to calculate our weighted total. Based off of the weighted total, we can recommend that vendor A will be a better choice than vendor B to match the consensus needs and wants of the two decision makers. All stakeholders want certain things, and they may vary depending on what role they play in the organization. Everyone wants to be involved in this important decision regarding the purchase of the IT system. Physicians, as a party who will utilize the system on a daily basis, want to make sure that the system includes the features that they need and want. Managers want to make sure that the system will increase productivity of his or her department, while the chiefs such as CEO, CFO, and/or COO want to make sure that their large investment in the system is well spent. Well-planned and well-executed participatory vendor selection eases the process of reaching a group decision. Quantification allows evaluators to capture the opinions of various decision makers' choices and express them in a mathematical equation for easier comparison. It is wise to conduct interviews before the general meeting because this allows the general meeting to have a smoother and more solid starting point with the analyst straw model. The straw model can save time by helping to divide the group task into smaller and more manageable group discussions. Additionally, everyone's voice can be heard beforehand, and therefore every decision maker can take ownership over the group decision.